If Act 1 is putting your characters in a tree and Act 2 is setting the tree on fire, then Act 3 is all about getting your characters out of that tree. Today we are talking about plotting that final act of your D&D campaign. Let's jump in. So first of all, if you haven't already checked out Act 1 and Act 2, check out these videos here. Now, Act 3 is all about the resolution to your story, obviously. This is where everything boils together. Stakes are at their highest, the story might feel its darkest, and it all starts with the road back. The party is defeated, they are probably afraid, and this next step is all about them deciding to take the road back home, back to the threat. It's the decision to finish the fight, the decision to be on the offensive and face things head on. For me, this might be a good time to insert a time jump or give the party some downtime. This gives the party a chance to regroup and breathe after facing the stark reality of the midpoint that you set up for them. Now, the road back is the launching point of your Act 3 and the final stretch for your party. Obviously, that means that while they might feel like they are ready, there are more challenges coming, and the light at the end of the tunnel is farther away than it looks. So let's take a look at our chart for Act 3. At the beginning, we have the road back. Now, in our Act 1 and Act 2 examples, the party had found a book in an ancient tomb. So maybe they finally decipher the clue that you left them and translate the book and have a list of ingredients to create a powerful weapon or an arrow of some sort or a summoning circle or whatever and lock this demon up again. Well, that gives them a mission. Between this road back step and the next step, which is called the rescue, there should be a series of increasingly difficult challenges. Are you seeing a common thread here between all the acts? Each of those challenges should serve the greater story. In Avatar: The Last Airbender, Act 3 starts with Aang defeated. And almost as if done on purpose, hint hint, it's also Book 3, Fire, Episode 1. Several weeks have passed. Aang has failed his mission. He literally bears the scars from his encounter with Zuko and Azula that almost killed him. The road back for Aang is not easy, and he remains in hiding for most of it. His challenges on the way back were many. He hadn't mastered firebending, he wasn't trusting himself, and most of all, he'd lost hope. Aang's road back began when he decided to put aside his ego and remain hidden from the world instead of wanting to prove to everybody that the Avatar was alive and well. This challenge for him was internal, but he also had to master firebending and help the others with a plan for defeating the Fire Lord. This took him to the Fire Nation where he met and encountered lots of different people. Those were his challenges. That was his road back. So let's lay out 3 bullets under the road back, challenge 1, 2, and 3, but this can be as many as you want. Challenge 1 should feel like the small step forward. Test your players with a new enemy. In my example on the road back, the players pass through a town where they suddenly see cultist activity. Secret symbols on doors and figures with markings they recognize, icons around their necks. Anything you want as long as it points back to the big baddie. So, for my example, this sets off my party's alarm bells and probably piques their curiosity. It also shows them how much activity the main bad guy has started, reminds them of their mission, and it makes them feel like that bad guy is much more powerful because they are everywhere now. Now, you can either have them encounter the cultists directly and just go straight to fighting the cultists and stopping their plan, or what I would do is have the Thieves Guild that's been looking for them jump them suddenly. Now, the reason I would do this is because this is surprising to the party. It keeps the threat of the other enemies real, and it makes it feel like the world is moving around the party instead of the encounters moving around to their story. That's just how I would do it. So challenge 1 for me is the Thieves Guild returns. Once they defeat the Thieves Guild, and I want to make a note here that they should defeat the Thieves Guild, because at this point the Thieves Guild are small fry to them, right? And defeating them for the 3rd time will really increase their confidence, and it will increase their renown in the world. Then there's challenge 2, where they can go see what the cult is doing, find out they're doing this local ritual, finding magical practitioners and kidnapping them, only to sap their strength and then feed it to the big enemy they released, and they're trying to restore him to power. So the party stops them, thwarts the plans, but the big baddie, let's call him Dolrot. He's an ancient demon or something. Dolrot appears to them as an apparition, having already been partially restored, and he's getting stronger by the day. So the party leaves town to make it back to the big city to call on their allies. On the way out, you can have them encounter something crazy like a dragon if you haven't done that, and every party loves to fight a dragon. Or you can pull them 100% off track with an interdimensional visit or something like that. I once had my party find a book that completely sucked them into it. Getting out of the book was an adventure on its own, and it really solidified the final challenge for them. They really felt like they could do anything after that. So whatever your challenges are, have those laid out, and just know that those challenges are the beats that you want them to hit before they move on to the next step, which is step 2. And speaking of step 2, we have the rescue, or the rescue from without. Now, in Joseph Campbell's The Hero with a Thousand Faces, the rescue from without is a really important part and pivotal to the character's growth. So in step 2 for the campaign, the heroes may find themselves in a situation where they literally need rescuing. Now in this case, you have two options. One, it can be that the third challenge really proved itself as a tough task, depending on what it was. It could be a lieutenant or an enemy. They went into another dimension that was just too dangerous, or they encountered a new foe. In order to succeed, they might need the aid of a goddess, as with before, which is honestly a great thread to pull on, especially if it connects to someone's backstory, since it will again solidify that specialness that they're feeling and really make them feel like they are the main characters and that they are the heroes that the world needs. Or two, in the case of my heroes, in my example, returning to the city, this help can literally be the party begging the queen for her armies, and the queen deciding that she's going to help them. Either one can be epic in its own way. Whatever you decide, the party has an ally somewhere, and it evens the playing field. That's the whole goal here, is that now things are level, and they have a solid chance against defeating this big baddie, Dolrot. But more than that, this is the moment when the party goes from, I don't think we can do this, to we have to do this. Now, I know that sounds kind of like one of the steps in Act 1, the Innermost Cave, but in Act 1, that moment for the party was a we have to do something kind of a moment. But the difference here is that now, in the middle of Act 3, is when they decide we are the only ones that can do something. Now, this moment for them is step 3 on your chart. This is crossing the final threshold. This is the deep breath before the plunge, as Gandalf put it. So pack in an epic speech from the queen, or an uplifting message from their deity, or the NPC they thought was dead comes to aid them. Give them a boost of emotion that they need, and we go to the next step, step 4. Now, there's a few ways that the party can go. They will either be very gung-ho about it, or very trepidatious and scared of taking that final plunge and fighting the big bad. They have help, so the party's morale is probably boosted, but the tension doesn't dissipate, it escalates. Now is the time to underscore the enormity of the challenge ahead, reminding the players and their characters that the fate of the world, kingdom, or realm, or whatever, rests on their shoulders. So you can go at your pace and the party's pace, add some encounters here, or you just jump right into the next step, the big moment, and that is step 4, decision time. So in my example, step 4, Dolrot reappears, an image in the sky hundreds of feet tall, and he warns the world of his resurrection and the coming doom. Show how powerful they have become and how dark things are. And if you want your party to move, this is a great way to add a ticking time bomb to the story. If Dalrot's armies appear, the party has no choice but to act. Or you can insert a magical portal that is sucking things up, and it's only a matter of time before the world goes, or something like that. Light a fire under the party and get the climax going when you are ready. This is also probably the party's last chance for some downtime, so make sure that they know that, and if they need it, give it to them. Step 4 is really all about introducing those final hurdles, and more importantly, it's about allowing your party to plan the final assault. Let them plan. This planning phase is critical for them because it makes them feel like they're in control, especially in control of their destiny. And it gives them a moment to strategize based on the knowledge and resources that they have accumulated throughout the campaign. This really does make them feel like things are ramping up, so let your players do that. Whether they choose a direct attack or a stealth mission to weaken the enemy's forces, or a magical endeavor to bolster their own powers, like that magical book that they found in the tomb, each choice should have a consequence and require very careful consideration from you as a DM. So plan accordingly, because this is it. This is the final fight. So have a plan for each direction they might go and figure out a way to bring it back to that main final point, and that is step 5, right? Now, between step 4 and step 5, you have those final challenges. This can be Dolrot's officers, his armies, his beasts, whatever. They can also be physical barriers, mountains, enemy outposts, moral dilemmas that challenge their commitment to this. If they want to get to that in time, they have to let this town burn. Something like that really, really makes them see the bigger picture and have to make those really hard decisions. These final challenges serve as the last hurdles for your party before the main event, and ideally are on the way to the climax, literally as they're moving to the climax. They're also super crucial for setting the tone of what the climax is going to be like. This is your chance to make them feel very afraid or very heroic or whatever. Set the tone for them through these challenges. If they take a boat to the final battle, test them at sea. If they're on a skyship, have some air encounters. Test their strategy, test their resolve, make it hard. They have to feel the weight of the adventure at this point. And when you finally get them through those final challenges, however many you set out, then we have Step 5. Bum bum bum. The climax. This is the moment of truth for your party. The climax is the confrontation with Dolrot in my example, the ancient demon. In a battle that has been building since the campaign's inception, this battle should feel epic in scale. It should involve not just the party but also their allies, right? The Queen's armies or the sky ships or whatever. It should also involve the strategies they've devised and the personal growth of each character. This is where in the video for Act 1, I said you need to think in terms of a movie or a book. What did you envision this fight like? Is it in a sea of lava? On a broken moon? The environment plays a crucial role, and whether it's Dolrot's lair or a mystical battlefield or the heart of the city that they're trying to save or whatever, the setting should add to the tension and the dramatic stakes of the encounter and paint a visual picture for them. If they are in the city, they have thousands of people to think about. This can be part of the encounters that test them. If they are somewhere on some magical battlefield or in space or on an asteroid, the battlefield can be unlike anything they've encountered so far, which will go a long way to setting this battle apart from every other one they've had. Now, obviously, there is so much that goes into creating the final fight, but as a starting point, watch this video here on making encounters for your players and just amp everything up. Now, the battle with Dolrot should push the party to their limits, requiring them to use every skill, every spell, and every tactic that they've learned. You might also think about incorporating elements that highlight each character's strength, giving them moments of individual heroism or teamwork, right? Make the barbarian have to save people by stopping a giant boulder, or introduce a magical barrier that only the wizard can get through. The fight should also have phases, with Dolrot revealing new powers or tactics that forces the party to adapt and overcome the challenges. And now, super important, this is also where you should decide how high the stakes are. Do you want a TPK to be possible? And if not, you should have a plan in place for what to do if a player drops to 0 and fails all of their saves. And if and when victory seems just out of reach, then you trigger the turning point. When you trigger that turning point, Dolrot's boasting and threats turn to fear, disbelief, anger. This could be the result of the party's actions earlier in the campaign, like with that spellbook. Or it could be a sacrifice made by a beloved character, right? An NPC that decides to sacrifice themselves for the players, or a player that decides to sacrifice themselves for the party. It could be a plan that they devised that is now succeeding, or a trap that they put together. Or even divine intervention would be an epic way to turn the tide, especially in this example, since one of my characters has a deity protecting them. And it really is an epic way to sort of set that final moment in the story, just saying. Whatever the case, trigger that turning point and start to give the players the feeling that the battle is going in their favor. Things around them should start to shift. If you have dark skies, light starts to break through. If you're on this crazy asteroid, maybe it starts to break apart, right? Think about that. Think about the different stages of the battle and think about how that's going to affect them and make them feel. When you do that, then you get to the final step, the resolution. Now, this is the big epic conclusion to the fight. Allow the party to celebrate their victory, reflect on their journey, have the bad guy say some really sad things like, oh, I can't believe this is happening, or whatever. Then, the NPCs approach them, and then old friends come up to congratulate them, and there's tears for the people that died there, and there's a moment of surveying the aftermath and a moment of silence. This could also be where the battlefield actually starts to collapse and they need to run and get the hell out of there. One final challenge, This is the time for rewards. And I don't mean just in terms of treasure and accolades, but also in personal growth for the characters and the impact of their victory on the world. Every single party should feel like they did something for the world or changed it somehow. Otherwise, we failed at that first initial question in Act 1, which is why are we tuning in now? The story focused on this party for a reason, and this is the moment where it becomes apparent. There's no better way to give that feeling of accomplishment than with an epilogue. Write one for each player, or let them talk about what they do after the big fight. This can honestly be its own session, since the boss fight may take 1 or 2 or more. This can involve a ceremony in their honor, the rebuilding of devastated lands, the dawn of a new era of peace and prosperity. The legacy that they left behind and their heroism should be felt in the world that they've saved. And it should leave a lasting mark on the story that you have all crafted together. Now, obviously, you could set up some loose ends for future adventures, or let them retire peacefully, now just NPCs in your broader world. And whether this road was 20 sessions or 200 sessions, you did it. So this is how I plotted my games. I really honestly hope it helps you plot your games. Leave a comment how you plot your acts. Maybe it's different than mine. That's totally fine. This is just how I do it because I have a background in screenwriting and it's what I love to do. And now for some quick shout-outs. Christopher Otero says, is Tobias a merchant or a pirate in secret? Probably both. Hunter Hoover, awesome name, says, LOL, guy on the water. Good eyes, Hunter Hoover. Alex Peters says, my first Tobias sighting without having to do a rewatch. Nice. Hope he gets the mice stowaways. Honestly, I love the fact that that insinuates that you've actually gone back and rewatched it in the past just to find Tobias. Now, if you've been paying attention in this video, leave a timestamp in the comments down below where you saw Tobias, and you might just be lucky enough to get shouted out in the next video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Forge on, my friends, and we'll see you next time, adventurers.